You're listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, created to help you succeed in your educational journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional prepcasts, books, and training materials await. Let's get started. Metric radiation is the practice of publishing measures in a predictable, transparent way so that people act from shared, trustworthy signals rather than fragmented versions or private dashboards. Its orientation stresses that visibility must come with context and freshness. Numbers alone can mislead if they are stale, ambiguous, or stripped of meaning. Effective radiation creates alignment by ensuring that all audiences see the same facts, updated on a known rhythm, with enough explanation to guide action. By contrast, poor radiation produces noise chart sprawl, all-green theater, or scattered spreadsheets that leave each group working from different truths. The purpose of radiation is not decoration but decision. Measures must travel across teams and stakeholders in forms that are accessible, interpretable, and tied to objectives. Done well, metric radiation becomes the backbone of coordination, making evidence as visible and reliable as the systems it represents. A single source of truth is the cornerstone of metric radiation because it prevents fractured decision-making. When different teams use parallel versions of the same measure, with subtle definitional changes, conversations devolve into disputes over numbers rather than outcomes. By consolidating measures, definitions, and changelogs in one authoritative system, organizations ensure that every dashboard and packet pulls from the same foundation. For example, cycle time data should flow from one dataset used by both team leads and executives, with clear annotations on what counts as start and finish. A single source does not mean one chart for all audiences, but it does mean one truth rendered at multiple layers. This discipline eliminates confusion and reduces wasted time reconciling discrepancies. It ensures that when stakeholders discuss progress or risks, they are aligned by evidence rather than divided by competing dashboards. Audience layers acknowledge that while the facts must remain consistent, not everyone needs the same granularity. Teams may need detailed distributions of errors, while executives may need summary risk indicators. Compliance partners may require traceability records, while product managers need outcome metrics tied to features. Audience layers provide different views of the same foundation, each tailored to access rights, decision cadence, and interpretive needs. For example, a service uptime measure may be shown to engineers as a detailed latency histogram, while executives see only whether uptime met the agreed error budget. This layering prevents oversharing sensitive detail while ensuring alignment across perspectives. By tailoring without diverging, audience layers make radiation efficient and relevant. They balance transparency with focus, ensuring that stakeholders get what they need to decide, not what confuses or distracts. Freshness indicators protect trust by making it obvious when measures were last updated, by whom, and when the next refresh will occur. Stale dashboards are dangerous because they give the illusion of accuracy while hiding drift. A visible timestamp reassures observers that they are acting on current evidence. Ownership labels clarify accountability, while next refresh markers manage expectations for when new data will arrive. For example, a satisfaction dashboard might show, last updated, June 5th, Steward, Product Analytics, next refresh, June 12th. This transparency allows stakeholders to judge whether numbers are timely enough for decisions. It also discourages reliance on outdated snapshots. Freshness indicators transform static charts into living artifacts, building confidence that measures are actively curated rather than abandoned. They reinforce that visibility without freshness is not true transparency. It is a false signal. Context narratives are the interpretive layer that makes metrics useful rather than cryptic. Every measure displayed must be accompanied by plain language explanations of purpose, scope, caveats, and expected actions. For example, a chart of defect rates should explain whether it includes all severities, whether a recent change in reporting practices affected counts, and what actions are triggered when thresholds are crossed. Narratives democratize metrics by making them accessible to non-specialists. They also reduce misinterpretation by acknowledging uncertainty and limitations. A raw number may be technically accurate but strategically meaningless without context. By embedding narratives, organizations ensure that published measures guide informed decisions rather than create confusion or overconfidence. Context is not optional. It is the difference between decoration and evidence. Distribution emphasis ensures that published measures reflect the diversity of experiences rather than masking them in averages. Averages often conceal tail pain where the most critical risks reside. For example, an average page load time of 2 seconds hides the fact that 10% of users experience delays of 10 seconds. By publishing percentiles and ranges, radiation makes variability visible and actionable. This distribution-aware approach shifts attention from the illusion of smooth performance to the reality of uneven experience. It also supports equity by highlighting whether specific cohorts, such as users in certain regions or with accessibility needs, face worse outcomes. Emphasizing distributions teaches audiences to interpret data honestly, avoiding complacency induced by single-point summaries. It ensures that visibility reflects reality in all its complexity, not just the comfort of averages. Minimal vital signals keep radiation lean and actionable. Dashboards cluttered with dozens of charts overwhelm observers, diluting attention and reducing signal-to-noise ratio. Each view should be limited to the few measures that answer the essential question: are we creating value reliably? For example, a portfolio dashboard might focus only on adoption, satisfaction, and error budget burn, while leaving supporting detail to drill downs. This discipline forces clarity and prevents vanity statistics from creeping in. By curating minimal sets, organizations respect attention spans and decision cadence. It also makes priorities clear, showing stakeholders what matters most at the current moment. Minimalism in radiation is not about hiding information, but about ensuring that what is shown is essential, relevant, and immediately useful. Goal alignment prevents metrics from drifting into decoration by linking every displayed measure to a current objective or risk. For example, if the strategic goal is to reduce churn, then adoption and retention rates should be prominently displayed, while unrelated metrics are removed from top-level views. Each measure must answer, what goal does this serve? If no goal exists, the measure should not be radiated. This alignment ensures that stakeholders interpret numbers in the context of strategic intent rather than as disconnected curiosities. It also prevents the cynicism that arises when dashboards are filled with statistics that no one acts upon. Goal alignment reinforces that radiation exists to drive outcomes, not to impress with data volume. It ties visibility directly to the organization's purpose. Definition change transparency ensures that trends remain honest when measures evolve. Silent shifts in definitions undermine credibility, as stakeholders may interpret apparent movement as real when it is actually an artifact of changed formulas. For example, redefining churn to exclude trial accounts must be annotated visibly, with clear notes on the break-in series. Change logs explain why definitions were updated, when, and how comparisons should be interpreted. This transparency prevents accusations of manipulation and preserves trust in longitudinal analysis. It also reinforces humility, acknowledging that measurement itself evolves as contexts shift. By annotating definition changes, organizations show respect for stakeholders and protect decisions from being made on misleading trends. Transparency about breaks in continuity is as important as the numbers themselves. Accessibility and remote readability make metric radiation inclusive and widely usable. Measures must be understandable not only in visual dashboards but also in formats suitable for audio-first or low-bandwidth consumption. For example, summaries may include concise plain language text that can be read aloud by screen readers or delivered in audio digests. Clarity of language prevents exclusion of non-technical audiences, while searchable formats ensure that distributed teams can access measures equitably. By designing for accessibility, organizations prevent systemic blind spots and ensure fairness in who can act on evidence. Remote readability recognizes the realities of distributed work, where not everyone can attend live sessions or access high-resolution dashboards. Inclusive design strengthens trust, proving that radiation is for everyone, not just the most privileged observers. Automation pipelines underpin trustworthy radiation by updating measures on schedule, reducing manual effort and hidden errors. Automated extraction, transformation, and loading ensure that dashboards refresh consistently, freeing stewards from repetitive data pulls. This automation also standardizes processes, reducing variation in quality. For example, telemetry on defect rates may be ingested automatically into dashboards each night, with exceptions flagged for review. Automation reduces latency, ensuring that numbers are as current as promised by freshness indicators. It also reduces opportunities for manipulation or mistakes that creep in with manual updates. By embedding pipelines, organizations make metric radiation sustainable and resilient. Automation ensures that visibility is not a heroic effort but a reliable system. Ethical guardrails balance openness with duty of care. Not all data can or should be published in raw form, especially when it involves sensitive information. Redaction, aggregation, or masking protects privacy while still surfacing meaningful signals. For example, defect data may be aggregated at category level rather than exposing individual employee performance. Guardrails ensure that transparency does not become surveillance. They also prevent oversharing of proprietary or personally identifiable information. By embedding ethical rules, organizations reassure stakeholders that radiation is safe and respectful. Openness should build trust, not erode it. Ethical guardrails align visibility with values, ensuring that publication is responsible as well as transparent. Feedback channels make metric radiation two-way rather than broadcast only. Dashboards and digests should invite questions, challenges, and suggestions for improvement. For example, a dashboard may include a link to submit concerns about definitions or requests for clarification. This channel ensures that observers remain engaged and that metrics evolve in response to needs. It also strengthens accountability by allowing stakeholders to challenge anomalies. Feedback channels reinforce that radiation is not static but participatory. They turn dashboards into living systems, co-owned by the organization. This practice prevents stagnation and creates continuous improvement loops, ensuring that metrics remain relevant and trusted. Anti-pattern watch protects radiation from drifting into dysfunction. Common traps include chart sprawl that overwhelms rather than clarifies, all-green dashboards that mask issues, and orphaned views without owners or purpose. These anti-patterns erode credibility and create cynicism. By explicitly rejecting them, organizations maintain discipline. For example, dashboards must have designated stewards, must display variation honestly, and must be pruned regularly. Anti-pattern vigilance ensures that radiation remains purposeful and trustworthy, not a performance. It reinforces the principle that metrics are for decisions, not theater. By naming and avoiding these traps, organizations preserve the integrity of transparency. Stewardship roles assign curators who are responsible for the quality, pruning, and continuity of metric views. Without ownership, dashboards drift into neglect, becoming stale or irrelevant. Stewards ensure freshness, check context, and update narratives. They also decide when measures should be retired or consolidated. For example, a steward may observe that two dashboards overlap significantly and merge them for clarity. Stewardship is not about controlling the truth, but about caring for its presentation and accessibility. By assigning clear roles, organizations ensure continuity even through reteaming. Stewardship roles make metric radiation sustainable, preventing decay and ensuring that transparency remains credible over time. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Ceremony integration makes metric radiation more than a passive display. It becomes the backbone of conversations in planning, reviews, and retrospectives. Instead of starting meetings with anecdotes or opinions, teams use radiated measures as the agenda itself. For example, a planning session might open with adoption and flow stability data, guiding backlog prioritization. A retrospective might review defect escape rates or support themes, grounding lessons in evidence. By embedding metrics into ceremonies, organizations ensure that visibility drives dialogue and decisions. This approach also reduces preparation overhead, as the same dashboards serve daily work and formal sessions. Ceremony integration transforms metrics from background artifacts into active guides, reinforcing that transparency is not optional. It is the starting point for every collective choice about scope, sequencing, and safeguards. Actionable alerts convert passive metric shifts into proportionate responses. Dashboards that simply change color from green to red provide awareness but no direction. Alerts tied to thresholds and playbooks tell teams what to do when measures cross critical ranges. For example, if uptime falls below an error budget threshold, an automated alert may trigger escalation, assign an owner, and link to steps for rollback or mitigation. Actionable alerts prevent paralysis by making responses predictable and timely. They also prevent overreaction, since thresholds and playbooks define proportionate action, rather than leaving decisions to panic. By connecting signals to responses, metric radiation becomes a control system rather than a decorative display. This discipline reinforces accountability, ensuring that visibility translates directly into protection and adaptation. Drill paths from summary to detail ensure that audiences can trace claims back to evidence. High-level packets and dashboards must not stand alone as abstract numbers. They must link to underlying data, definitions, and change logs. For example, an executive report showing 95% of items finished in under 10 days should link to distributions by team, scope definitions, and the dataset itself. This drillability builds trust, as observers can verify claims rather than accept them blindly. It also prevents cherry-picking, since transparency requires that summaries are anchored in accessible detail. Drill paths make dashboards both accessible to casual readers and defensible to skeptics. They ensure that metric radiation is transparent across layers, providing both brevity for fast consumption and depth for critical review without fragmentation. Cross-team comparability keeps synthesis fair and coherent across the organization. Shared measures such as throughput, defect density, or satisfaction must use the same definitions, slices, and time horizons across teams. Without this comparability, roll-ups produce misleading contrasts. For example, if one team measures defect escape rate by severity and another counts all defects equally, aggregated summaries are meaningless. Comparability design ensures that numbers can be aggregated responsibly and that performance is judged consistently. It also enables benchmarking across units, fostering learning rather than competition distorted by differing definitions. Metric radiation relies on this comparability, so that dashboards spanning multiple teams reflect reality, not definitional confusion. It creates a shared language of evidence, strengthening trust and enabling portfolio-level alignment. Storytelling with measures frames metrics as part of a narrative, not as raw numbers floating without meaning. Effective storytelling highlights cause hypotheses, uncertainties, and proposed next steps. For example, a satisfaction score drop might be presented as, "We hypothesize that the change in onboarding increased complexity. Next step, run a usability test with new users." This framing turns data into a story with agency and direction. It captures attention and ensures that measures are tied to learning and action. Storytelling also prevents disengagement, as audiences connect emotionally to narratives more than to abstract figures. By embedding storytelling into metric radiation, organizations transform dashboards into communication tools. They keep focus on decisions and hypotheses rather than on decoration or superficial wins. Trend narratives shift attention from static snapshots to movement over time. Snapshots tell whether a measure is good or bad at one moment, but trends reveal whether conditions are stable, improving, or deteriorating. Narratives must highlight stability, drift, and seasonality to inform timing decisions. For example, adoption may appear steady today, but a trend narrative could reveal a slow decline over 3 months that threatens long-term outcomes. Conversely, performance volatility may be acceptable if it aligns with known seasonal cycles. By narrating trends, organizations contextualize decisions, showing whether signals represent noise, short-term spikes, or durable patterns. Trend emphasis prevents overreaction to snapshots and builds confidence that actions are aligned with genuine movement rather than temporary fluctuations. Async digests extend the reach of metric radiation without overloading meetings. Concise summaries delivered on predictable schedules keep stakeholders informed while freeing calendar space. For example, a weekly digest may highlight key shifts in adoption, flow stability, and risks, linking to dashboards for detail. By pairing brevity with drill paths, digests ensure both efficiency and transparency. They also accommodate distributed teams by providing information that can be consumed asynchronously. Digests reduce meeting fatigue while maintaining awareness and alignment. They prove that transparency does not require synchronous time for every update. By institutionalizing digests, organizations maintain rhythm in information flow, ensuring that evidence reaches all stakeholders predictably without disrupting their focus. Compliance-friendly radiation embeds evidence links and retention notes directly into published measures. Rather than creating separate reporting streams for audits, organizations ensure that dashboards include the artifacts regulators or auditors require. For example, a risk dashboard might include links to approval logs, traceability chains, and retention policies. This integration prevents duplicative work and demonstrates accountability continuously rather than only during audits. Compliance-friendly design also reassures stakeholders that transparency includes obligations, not only performance. It ensures that evidence is defensible, saving time and reducing stress when inspections occur. By weaving compliance into everyday radiation, organizations make governance part of normal transparency. It aligns agility with accountability, reinforcing that trustworthy delivery includes regulatory proof alongside value outcomes. Incident snapshots are specialized radiation practices designed for stressful events. During incidents, stakeholders require concise factual readings and clear timelines for next updates. For example, outage detected at 10:15 a.m., root cause under investigation, next update at 10:45 a.m. Incident snapshots protect trust by providing transparency even when systems are failing. They prevent rumor cycles by setting expectations for when new information will arrive. Snapshots are not exhaustive but focused: current state, immediate action, and next check. This discipline keeps communication reliable under stress, showing that transparency is most critical when conditions are most difficult. Incident snapshots demonstrate that openness is not conditional on good news, but a principle maintained during crises. Historical archives preserve prior readings and narratives for learning and verification. Without archives, organizations lose context and cannot analyze how measures or responses evolved. Archives should store past dashboards, context narratives, and change annotations, making them retrievable without cluttering current views. For example, an archive may show how defect rates trended before and after a major process change, helping teams assess its effectiveness. Archives also provide defensibility for audits or disputes, ensuring that claims about past performance are evidence-based. They balance the need for clean current dashboards with the value of long-term learning. By maintaining archives, organizations ensure that transparency is cumulative, not fleeting, strengthening institutional memory and accountability. Effectiveness measures assess whether metric radiation itself improves decisions and outcomes. These may include tracking surprise rate, how often stakeholders are caught off guard, decision latency, time from signal to action, and rework attributable to misunderstood signals. For example, if fewer escalations occur because early warning dashboards improved response time, radiation is working. Conversely, if rework persists despite abundant charts, the system is failing. Effectiveness measures turn transparency inward, holding the practice itself accountable. They ensure that dashboards are not maintained for ritual but for impact. By measuring the effectiveness of radiation, organizations refine cadence, design, and content continuously. Transparency becomes evidence-based in its own right, proving its value through outcomes, not assumptions. Pruning and consolidation keep metric radiation high signal by removing low-value views and combining overlapping ones. Over time, dashboards tend to accumulate as new needs arise, but without pruning, noise overwhelms signal. For example, if two dashboards show overlapping defect data differently, consolidation prevents confusion. Retiring outdated measures or views prevents misinterpretation. Pruning is not about reducing transparency, but about maintaining clarity. It ensures that attention is focused on the few views that matter most, aligned to current objectives and risks. Consolidation reduces redundancy and strengthens coherence across teams. By pruning regularly, organizations prevent dashboard bloat and ensure that radiation remains lean, relevant, and trusted. Onboarding and refreshers teach stakeholders how to interpret radiated measures correctly. Without literacy, dashboards risk being misread, leading to poor decisions. Training covers reading distributions, understanding caveats, and recognizing anti-patterns such as all-green theater. For example, a refresher may explain why percentiles matter more than averages, or how to interpret seasonality in trend charts. By educating both new and existing participants, organizations democratize access to evidence. Refreshers also create space for improvement, inviting stakeholders to suggest refinements. This culture of shared literacy makes radiation participatory and resilient. It ensures that visibility leads to informed choices rather than misinterpretation. Onboarding and refreshers turn metrics from technical artifacts into shared organizational tools. Sustainability practices keep metric radiation effective over time. These include rotating stewardship roles to prevent burnout, capping channel proliferation to avoid noise, and scheduling periodic reviews to refine scope. For example, a review might prune redundant dashboards, update freshness standards, and evaluate whether current signals still align to strategy. Rotating roles spreads knowledge and prevents single points of failure. Capping channels keeps focus manageable, ensuring that stakeholders know where to look for truth. By treating radiation itself as a system requiring care, organizations prevent decay into clutter or neglect. Sustainability ensures that transparency remains credible, humane, and useful long after its initial design. It makes openness not just a practice but a durable organizational capability. Metric radiation synthesis emphasizes that transparency must be predictable, distribution-aware, and tied to action. Single sources of truth, layered audiences, and freshness indicators create alignment. Narratives, drill paths, and storytelling provide meaning. Thresholds, alerts, and forums ensure that signals drive responses. Archives, effectiveness checks, and sustainability practices make transparency durable and adaptive. Compliance-friendly design and incident snapshots protect trust under both normal and stressful conditions. Together, these practices transform dashboards from static displays into living systems of evidence. They ensure that visibility reliably improves decisions, reduces surprises, and aligns action with outcomes. Metric radiation, done well, is not just about publishing numbers but about making those numbers the backbone of trust and coordination. Thanks for tuning in to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, your trusted source for cybersecurity news and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.